Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and we're going to talk about the Game Awards confirming that Shadow of the Erd Tree is eligible for Game of the Year. So, let's cue up the music and we'll get right to it. Alright, so Game of the Year is coming up here, and Game Awards is allowing, well, they're talking about DLCs, remakes, remasters, new game seasons, expansion packs. They're all going to be eligible in all categories, which is interesting. Not really sure how I feel about this sort of thing. Now, I could see remakes having its own. There have been some amazing remakes, okay? Absolutely stunning remakes. Dead Space was fantastic. Resident Evil 4 was another one that was absolutely fantastic. You know, there's some other ones that come out and they're pretty good. Then there's some remasters. You know, remasters a different ball game. It's nowhere near the caliber of a remake, but they can be very, very good, right? They can look so much better, play better, add some great new features. From my understanding, the remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn that just came out is pretty damn good and adds a lot of neat quality of life features that are featured in Forbidden West, but weren't featured in the original game. Did I say featured enough? So, you know, I kind of want to plug that game in just to try it out and see how it feels in that old game, and see what it looks like on the PlayStation 5 Pro, because it is enhanced for the Pro. You know, it should be pretty sweet. You know, and I can see a game like Final Fantasy VII, you know, Rebirth or Remake or whatever, competing too. You know, big games like that, those are great. But remasters, no, and DLCs for Game of the Year, I don't think a DLC should compete for that now. I could see a category of its own, right? Maybe a DLC category. You know, downloadable content of the year, expansion pack of the year, whatever. Set certain parameters for it. It has to be, story-based expansion or whatever. It can't just be new character or a new. I don't know, man. There's got to be some kind. You gotta. This could get ugly. You know, this could get ugly. This could piss a lot of people off. You know how gamers are. Anytime anything is introduced new or anything changes, everybody gets pissed off at everybody else in gaming. So this is just going to piss everybody off, and I believe it probably already has. You know, yeah, especially and it feels like I see people already saying, well, they're just doing this so that they can make Shadow of the Erd Tree Game of the Year, and you know, whatever. This was a rough year for games anyway. There's not a lot of games out there that could be competing for Game of the Year, but there are some very good games out there like Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade that definitely deserve a shake and a fair chance at things. You know, Shadow of the Erd Tree, from what I've seen and what I've heard, is fantastic. It's just as good as the original game itself. You know, it adds so much to the game. It continues on with the story and the gameplay, and you know, just enriches the world and all that. You know, why not make a DLC category? Remakes, so much goes into a remake. I mean, a remake is a new game. So, yeah, I could see them competing maybe on the same scale. I mean, I don't think it would really hurt a remake. A remaster, I don't even see why a remaster would go in there, because how many remasters are better than new games? How many remasters are remastered so well that they're going to outshine the best games of the year? Not many, right? I mean, you know, yeah, every now and then we see something that's really, really good, but a remaster is a remaster. It's basically spit and polish, you know, clean things up, change things around a little bit, and, you know, put it back out there, and it's modernized, and it's ready to go, and feels better, you know, it runs better, frame rate, you know, the graphics are a little clearer, you know, those textures are better. You've updated the gameplay a little bit so that it's it's a little cleaner, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I don't see those really being an issue. And, and I guess a remake, it could go against the modern stuff. I mean, why not, right? It would be cool, though, but in this day and age with so many remakes and remasters coming out, it would be kind of cool to have a subcategory of that. But then again, are they coming out every year, and how many are coming out every year? I don't know, man. It's really, really wild. Anyway, this is from the Gamer. They're saying it's been a pretty good year for video games, which, there, like I said, there were some good ones, but there were a lot of tankers. As it feels like most of us are desperately playing to catch up before the next Illusia games hits in February 2025. We had bangers like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Helldivers 2, Metaphor, Fantasio, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Astrobot, and even this year's Call of Duty was pretty good too. I heard that's kind of arguable. I'm not a Call of Duty guy. But it feels like this year's grand prize at the Game Awards is going to be a tough one to call, but it turns out there could be a surprise challenger in our midst, as the Game Awards recently confirmed that expansion packs, new game seasons, that's weird, man. That shouldn't be in there. DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories, meaning a certain Elden Ring DLC that came out earlier this year is in the running to be nominated for Game of the Year. So I guess all categories, so what is that? Music, graphics, story, these sort of things too. The clarification was first spotted by Polygon and can be found in the frequently asked question page of the official Game Awards website. It claims that while DLC is eligible in all categories, it also stresses that the jury has to find its new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Now, we all know that Shadow of the Erdtree was brilliant and an improvement on the base game in some respects, so there's no doubting its quality. However, it was also noted by Polygon that the clarification was added today, as a trip to the Game Awards website on the Wayback Machine reveals this clarification didn't even exist until recently. That means a lot of video game publications that submitted ballots for potential nominees wouldn't have known whether Shadow of the Erdtree was eligible for the award or not, meaning it's unlikely to show up, but it's still possible though. That's one way you could take the strange update on the fact page. Though another is that this could be the Game Awards predicting the potential fallout for when Shadow of the Erdtree is nominated for Game of the Year next week. The idea of some DLC being nominated for Game of the Year over full titles would undoubtedly stir up trouble, so this little clarification could have been added as something for Jeff Keighley to point to. Yeah, I don't like it being Game of the Year for DLC. I could see it, being nominated for best graphics or best, whatever, music, stuff like that, individual things. But for Game of the Year, I don't know, man. I don't like that. Anyway, either way, you won't know whether, for sure, exactly which games are up for Game of the Year until the nominees are announced. Thankfully, we won't have to wait too long, as Kaylee recently announced on Twitter that a stream to reveal the nominees is taking place this coming Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. We'll then get to see which games are battling it out for the grand prize, and even Shadow of the Erdtree will be, or if it's even among them. So that's going to be tomorrow there. This is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Not, I don't like DLC being up for Game of the Year, because to me, Game of the Year is a full game, right? You can't play a DLC on its own. You can't just plug in Shadow of the Erdtree and play it unless you own and have played through Elden Ring, at least some of Elden Ring. Maybe not the whole thing, but some of it. You had to play through to a certain part to access the DLC. A lot of games are like that. You have to reach a certain point in the story or the game, a certain mission, a certain level, whatever, and then you can play the DLC. So it's not a full game. I don't like it being up for Game of the Year. Other stuff, I have no problem with it being there for. And honestly, remakes and remasters, yeah, they can be up for Game of the Year, I would say. A remaster's probably never going to win it. I can't see a remaster outdoing a brand new game. I just don't see that ever being a thing. And a remake would be tough, because remakes, although are, sometimes they're very, very good, very often they're so divisive, and they change certain things that it just, they never quite, not always, a lot of times they don't quite capture that magic of the first game again. That's not always true. Now, there's a lot of remakes that are great. Again, I named a couple earlier, like Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. Love them both. Resident Evil 2 was another great one. I've heard Silent Hill 2 is pretty damn good. I've heard it's pretty solid. I had my doubts about it before it was released, but from what I've heard, my doubts were totally unfounded. So, I've heard that's a fantastic one. And of course, the Final Fantasy VII ones, I've got the two of those. They're turning a single game into a trilogy, which is absolute madness, I think. But it's awesome, too, because it was such a sick story, and they're really expanding on things that, wow, go for it. Why not? Yeah. So, what do you guys think down below? Do you think we should allow, do you think a DLC should be up for Game of the Year? I don't know. I don't. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace.